Watching News at Prime, let's bring you this now. Lectures at the University of Free State are set to resume tomorrow. It follows protests at its Qwaqwa campus this week over the decision to discontinue provisional registration for the year 2026. The lectures there at the Bloemfontein and South campuses were also suspended. Now, UFS says it has moved the start of the year-end exams from the 3rd of November to the 10th, except for health sciences final year students. This is aimed at ensuring that they can graduate in December so that they are eligible for community service internships in the January calendar. All right, let's continue with this. The South African Federation of Trade Unions is calling for the law enforcement to find those responsible for burning buildings at Fort Hare University. SAFTU has raised concerns about the alleged hijacking of student protests by corrupt elements. The damage at the institution is estimated at over 500 million rand. Let's talk now to SAFTU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi, who talks to us via the virtual platform. Mr. Vavi, good evening to you. Thank you, as always, for taking time to talk to us. You say, as SAFTU, you stand in solidarity with the students. However, you are concerned over the possible hijacking of their cause. Are you aware who the hijackers might be?
Well, good evening, Koli. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to speak to you about this very important matter, about the burning down of the big sections of blocks that are essential in keeping information and the history of that institution. This is not just any other institution. This is Fort Hare that we are speaking about here. This is the institution that produced Nelson Mandela, Robert Mugabe, Robert Mangali Sosobuke, and countless other heroes of the liberation struggle. This is a pride of the black people, pride of the black education. This is about the black excellence from its inception. For anyone to then decide to launch arson attack on that institution is absolutely shocking in our view. We don't believe that this is forming any part of any revolutionary agenda. This is counter-revolutionary at its best. This is about destroying an institution. This is about destroying the records that institution is holding, including administrative records, and all manner of information that will be so essential in the ongoing investigation by the SIU on many things, including people who are able to allegedly get qualifications of masters and degrees and this and that. It's totally unacceptable that anybody for being aggrieved that, according to some reports, there have been no SRC elections, or even demanding the resignation of the Vice Chancellor, Sakela Buhlungu, will then decide to burn down an institution so historic to the struggles of the black people in the country. And that's why we stand categorically to condemn that arson attack and to ask the police to leave no stone unturned in ensuring that the people who are behind that arson attack are arrested and brought to book. And we are into the speculative world because we don't know who are the people that may be behind this counter-revolutionary attack on the Fort Hare University. And we do not believe that students will burn down their own future. Not at all. These are people who are hijacking the grievances of the students to advance their nefarious agendas, maybe even to ensure that the records are destroyed so that they may not be arrested and face the might of law. And we are absolutely ashamed that persons who will go to the extent of burning down Fort Hare University is absolutely a shocker.
You mentioned the Vice-Chancellor of the institution, and I want to extrapolate from your statement here. You say, now even university administrators and reformers, such as Professor Sakela Buhlungu, who has faced death threats for his anti-corruption stance, are under siege. That Vice-Chancellor, Professor Buhlungu, has not stopped talking because he has been raising issues about trying to clean up that institution. You're well aware of his bodyguard who was killed at that university. Do you believe that his life continues to be at stake as we speak?
We think so. It is not because of this arson attack. He has been facing those death threats for a number of years. As soon as he began to stand on the toes of the powerful in society, the people who were using that university as a feeding trough to fill their elastic bellies that are never fully filled through looting of the future of those children, the future of the South African people. And as soon as he began to do that honestly, he began to be an enemy, perhaps even enemy number one of the heartless entrepreneurs who are totally immune because they are now able to basically intimidate even vice-chancellors. We talk here of a country that have seen the death of a lot of, not just one, loads of whistleblowers, loads of honest civil servants who have entered into the civil service to serve the interest, the most basic interest of ordinary people in the country. We can never forget that an honest civil servant, Babita Deokarant, was killed by 6 men who pumped her tiny body with bullets brutally. We can never forget that Jimmy Mushala, a honest civil servant from Bombela, Nelspruit, was killed mercilessly. We cannot forget that Boma Jangase and of Mpumalanga as well became one of the countless victims of being just killed in cold blood.
Yeah.
You can go to the Vembe regions, some shopkeepers have been killed. You can go to the Free State, you can go to Lichtenburg to remember a NUMSA and SAFTU activist who became a councillor, whose sin was to go and show evidence of looting in the Lichtenburg to the leadership of the ANC, and who on his return there was just killed right outside his house in front of his own children. This have to stop. South Africa must stand up, or to allow our country to be ruled by these thugs who are ruling the nights, who are intimidating whistleblowers, who are targeting honest civil servants to silence them so that nobody can raise a finger when they loot and destroy the future of our children.
A very interesting comment this week came from the Eastern Cape Premier, and I'd like for us to have a listen to him, and you'll tell me your thoughts on the back of what he said. This was exactly on the incident that took place at Fort Hare. Let's take a listen.
What happened at Fort Hare, it's so horrible. It's really unprecedented. It should not happen anyway. And we're seeing this glimpse of protests everywhere. Free State University is also closed down. So there seems to be a wave that is starting to gain momentum. And we believe in dialogue. We don't believe in intransigent managers. If you are a leader of a university, you are a vice-chancellor, you must understand that you are leading a microcosm of a society. So stakeholders there are not just people to follow, are people to be engaged, are people to participate in how you shape the leadership of the institution. The leadership is not only the council and the management, the entire institutional forum, SRCs as a critical body in the university. So we hope something like that will never, as we have said, we are really condemning what has happened, and we believe that minister is on a right track to arrest that problem. We are working with the minister to make sure that that thing that has happened at Fort Hare, it will never happen again. I really don't know where I'm seated, where we are going to get $500 million to renovate the buildings that have just been destroyed over a night, whoever has been involved, and we are really looking forward to get into a deeper forensic investigation around that. Because we've got to get behind all these things that are created and deal with the actual problem and stop dealing with issues that are existing in our figment of imagination.
So there is the Premier of the Eastern Cape, Oscar Mabuyane, who is quite clear that he condemns what has happened there. He's got no clue where the money is going to come from, $500 million, to fix what has been damaged there. However, there is the part of his commentary where he says we don't believe in intransigent administrators and or vice-chancellors. What do you make of that comment?
Well, we fully endorse his condemnation and of the arson attack on Fort Hare, as well as any kind of violence directed at anybody. We insist that our demonstrations must be militant, but must be orderly and must give a full expression of our anger on any matter that we feel aggrieved against. We SAFTU have been standing shoulder to shoulder with the students from our inception, from fees must fall to outsourcing must end, to providing workers uniform and getting them to earn a living wage in the universities, to demanding an end to colonial education and to demand transformation of our education system. We've been fighting with the student movement. Everybody knows that. But we draw the line on the sand. We do not support anarchy. We do not support the destruction of the critical infrastructure at a time when our economy, every arrow of it is facing down. We do not support hijacking of genuine grievances of the students by tenderpreneurs and the people who have something to hide in terms of the ongoing SIU investigation. I think that you should call back the Premier and ask him to clarify his own comments, because you are indeed correct to pick up that as a worrying comment. Who are these intransigent managers that the Premier is speaking about? Do these include the Professor Sakela Buhlungu, who in our view has been a marvel to watch from a distance in terms of unearthing corruption, nepotism, as well as buying of degrees by people who are occupying high offices. Former ministers, including the Premier, by the way, has been fingered in those investigations. The President was correct to sign a proclamation and to order a deeper investigation into the allegations that are flowing about at that Fort Hare University. And that Premier statement will be interpreted elsewhere as basically somebody aggrieved, perhaps by those investigations himself, and somebody who have something to hide, somebody who have an axe to grind against the Vice-Chancellor, who's doing a great job at the Fort Hare University to best networks of corruption and fraud in the university. And he must come back to clarify that. I think you should call him back to ask him, who are these intransigent managers and what is the context of his statement? Because if that is not clarified, unfortunately, it will fall right into our worst fears, that those who are honest public servants are not provided the necessary support. Babita Deokarant did over and over express fears that she was going to die. The senior civil servants at the Department of Health in Gauteng look on the other side. And it has now taken 2 years to suspend the senior official. Can't remember now his exact position that was suspended by the Gauteng Premier.
Yeah.
The people who she would have reported directly to say that my life is under threat were never ever disciplined. They were allowed to resign on their own. And we don't want the same thing to happen to Professor Buhlungu. It will be absolutely shame. And this is the point that we are making. We as ordinary South Africans, and who are the overwhelming majority, are allowing a tiny minority of guns, R5 wielding thugs to redefine our very nature of politics in South Africa, to take over and hijack our democracy and make it a democracy of a small elite of hyenas that are hell-bent to destroy everything. That is the dream of our time during the worst days of apartheid. We are turning those dreams into a nightmare, and we are allowing it to happen.
Yeah.
Left, right, and center, whistleblowers, honest civil servants are being killed. There is no outrage in the streets of South Africa to pledge solidarity with the people who are doing us good. Instead, we are allowing the mobs who have something to hide to hire as many people as they can. As I've seen this thing, by the way, in Lichtenburg, and I ended up crying when Mos Phakwe was supposed to be defended by the leaders of the ANC who were accused of killing him, but who had bigger crowds of people to come and support the mayor then, who was suspected to have been behind his killing. This should not be allowed to happen. We will regret that we are allowing a small minority to rule over a democratic majority just because they are carrying guns.
Zwelinzima Vavi, thank you very much for your time. The General Secretary of SAFTU, the Trade Union Federation.